Hey guys, Fazan live from Wimbledon on site for day 6, bringing you the daily podcast. And I cannot wait to get into this one because there's quite a few matches to talk about, a few upsets as well. Yes, the upsets are still happening. And I'm going to get into a bit of detail on some of the interviews I've done today. Ash H was here, however, he's had to leave. So it will be just myself on the podcast today. So sorry in advance for just hearing my voice, but hopefully you guys will enjoy this episode. Before we do get into it though, this podcast is sponsored by Nick Rivett Sport. Please do check out their website in the description below. Great online racket demo service, which I've used myself to test a number of rackets. Really, really good customer service. Check them out for all your tennis equipment needs. Okay, let's get into the day then, because there's a lot to dissect. And I think first of all, we can touch on the women's side and then go on to the men's. I think that's probably the easiest way to do it with just myself. So I did see a little bit of the Swiatek-Collins match, and look, Swiatek is looking extremely comfortable on grass, and there are a couple of questions asked in the press conference about whether she has changed anything technically or tactically when she comes onto grass. And she, like she normally is, was a little bit coy on exactly what might have changed. I think the biggest thing for her is just the comfort level of being able to adjust to grass, the movement, and then knowing exactly where to be in order to get the most optimum contact zone, right? That's really what she is looking at. So I think for me, that's a big plus in her game, and she looked very dominant, beating Collins 6-2, 6-3, who of course had beaten Swiatek recently in Rome on the clay. So that was a big win, I think, because I would argue that the grass is probably more suited to Collins' game than Iga's historically. But Iga, look, she's only made a quarterfinal here in the past, and that's her best result. I would not be surprised if she goes further, but she faces someone who is going to be a tricky opponent. I won't preview it because it's not one of the matches tomorrow, but Iga's facing Clara Tauson, who upset 2022 Wimbledon champion Elena Rybakina, beat her 7-6, 6-3. I did watch some of that match, not in person. That was Ash, who was tanning on court 2, but it was a very interesting match, a tiebreaker first set that Tauson took 8-6, and then from then on she went on to dominate the second set. A few rain delays and breaks, etc. But I think Rybakina, who was quite down after Ash talked to her and essentially said that she wasn't happy with her performance. She was expecting Tauson to come with some variety and just didn't handle it very well from her side of the court. For Tauson, she was very happy post-match, talked about the fact that she, of course, needed to vary. I think she was playing with a lot more variety than you would normally see from her, and it was a very brave game plan that paid dividends. The backhand slice was working really well, and she was actually throwing in some forehand slices, almost Andreeva-esque, and that was, in my opinion, arguably the best performance of the day, and we'll talk about it in a second because there's some other fantastic performances, but that was definitely up there from Tauson, a really, really polished performance from the Dane. Then if we wrap up the rest of the women, so Zeynep Sönmez, who is the first player from Turkey to make it this far at a Grand Slam. She fell to Ekaterina Alexandrova, who's got a big game and should do damage on the grass and is doing damage on the grass. Andreeva came through very comfortably against Baptiste 6-1, 6-3. I interviewed her post-match and talked to her about her forehand slice, because in the previous presser she had talked about overusing the forehand slice and wasn't particularly happy about the overuse of variety at times when she felt she should be hitting through the ball or hitting over it, as they like to say in the pros. So yeah, she was a lot more upbeat today. Very, very good performance. Clinical. Conchita was happy. Thumbs up after she won, saying that she could rest and didn't need to go back onto the practice court straight away. And yeah, she was very happy in the presser. Mira, and I have to say I'm continually impressed with her maturity and the way that she holds herself in these presses at 18 years of age. Considering as well that English, of course, isn't her first language, it's incredible, honestly. And she could be a future all-time great Hall of Famer, but either way, one thing that I have to say is that she holds herself extremely well with the media, and that's been very impressive and continually impresses me the more that I speak to her. Very intelligent, not just player, but human being by the sounds of it, and very down to earth, very eloquent. Talking of the others on the women's side then, so Navarro caused the other big upset, beating Krejcikova, the reigning champion, 2-6, 6-3, 6-4. Came back from a tough first set where Krejcikova was looking dominant. They had a rain delay at 1-1 in the first set. Navarro looked like she was up for it. Krejcikova wasn't really up for it, but managed to get through and win that first set. And then Navarro, in the press, I asked her, what did she do differently tactically to essentially disrupt the rhythm of Krejcikova? And what she said is that I was giving her too much pace in the first set, and she was redirecting. She was essentially playing on her terms. And Navarro said, actually, I took some pace off the ball, so probably more slices, alluding to more slicing, more angles, more slow topspin angles and lobs at times as well, which, obviously you would normally talk about that being used a lot on clay, and she didn't overuse it, but at times it was just a mix-up to give Krejcikova a different look. And Krejcikova is the type of player that if you give her a lot of balls at one pace, she gets into rhythm really quickly, and she's easily able to dissect your game. So I think that was a very intelligent change from Navarro, who historically, I spoke to her last year with Coco Gauff about Coco Gauff after she beat her at Wimbledon, and she went on a very interesting monologue about the fact that she was going forehand to forehand with Coco as a chess match, and she talked quite technically and tactically about how she came out of that one with Coco. So I was expecting and hoping for something along those lines. Didn't quite get what I was hoping for in terms of tactics and game plan, but she did give something, and I was the first question. So she probably was just thinking, I don't want to take up too much time. She also did look not necessarily like she didn't want to be there, but I think it'd been a long day with the stop and starts, and she wasn't, I don't think, particularly happy with her level. I think she was happy with her fight, but maybe not her level. So I think for her, it was more, let's get through this presser and then, go back to the practice courts and focus on the next match. But she gave an interesting insight on one of the other questions where she talked about the fact that she actually, on her forehand, she goes to the practice courts every practice session and thinks, I'm going to hit the perfect forehand. It's going to feel incredible, and it's going to click, and it's going to feel like, yes, this is it. I've cracked the code. So that was an interesting insight, because obviously the forehand for her, and I think it's been spoken about a lot, technically it's probably not where she wants it to be, at least in terms of fluidity and how clean she's able to hit through that shot. On the backhand, she doesn't have such an issue. Even on the serve, yes, it's not the most potent weapon, but I feel like she's made it work on grass, and she alluded to that in the press conference. And on return, she's a natural, and I think she's got pretty good hands as well. So I think the forehand is the big thing for her. And obviously, Coco tried to exploit that last year, and Navarro tried to exploit that with Coco last year. So that was an interesting forehand to forehand matchup that we saw last year. And I do wonder what will happen when Navarro comes up against someone who is a bit of a bigger hitter, and they do go big into a forehand. But she's up against Andreeva next, and I won't necessarily talk about that again too much. Although actually I can talk about them, because they will be playing. Oh, sorry, no, they won't be playing tomorrow. They'll be playing on Monday. To round up the women's then, Bencic beat Cochereto. Cochereto's had a fantastic tournament. I think, one of the unlikely runs, but I know that she has had some good results in the past on grass, but she hasn't played particularly well recently form-wise. So to then beat Jess Pegula was just an incredible win. And then to capitalise and make the third round, have chances against Bencic, losing a 10-7 champs tiebreaker in the third set. Would have been heartbreaking. I'm sure she was just speaking to someone one-on-one outside in the media centre, and she, I think understandably, would be visibly upset, but she actually seemed relatively calm, and that's great to see. I think she's probably reflecting on a pretty impressive tournament that she can hopefully now push on from and really use to catapult her career back into probably where she'd like it to be, I think. Back to where it should be, because she's a very talented player. Bencic, though, that story just continues to develop, of course. She has had a child, she's come back, and she's looking to disrupt, and she's doing that. So that was a great win, and she will play Alexandrova next. Swiatek has Towson, Andreeva has Navarro, and then the other ones quickly to go through as I round up the day for the women's was Buzas beat Yastremska in 3 sets. Great win for the Spaniard. And yeah, Jessica Buzas Monero is someone who you might not have heard of. And yeah, she's come through really impressively against Seidel, who had to get a walkover, or had to retire, even. So Buzas got a walkover. Beat Sophia Kenin, who we know can be quite solid on grass, and Yastremska's got a big game for grass, so that's a good win. And then she will play Samsonova, who's playing very well, who very convincingly beat Krejcikova in straight sets. A great win there. On the men's side, look, there is a lot to talk about, but not many upsets, to be honest. The only upset, I guess you could say on paper, was Sonego, who's unseeded, beating 29th seed Nakashima in 5 sets in what can only be described as an absolutely thrilling match. 4 tiebreakers in it in a 5-set match. 10-3 in the champs tiebreaker for Sonego. A 10-8 tiebreaker in the second set that Sonego won as well. And the first 3 sets are tiebreakers. So it was Sonego winning 6-7, 7-6, 7-6, 3-6, 7-6. So yeah, Sonego getting it done in all tiebreakers. Fair play to him. A gutsy win. And they were actually playing on court 14, which you can see if you overlook the media balcony. So I had a good view, watch some of that, which was a really good match. And another match that was on court 18, which again is the media balconies overlooking court 18, was Marin Cilic versus João Munar. And Cilic won 6-3, 3-6, 6-2, 6-4 in very impressive fashion. So a good win for the Croat. Shelton didn't have too many issues with lucky loser Fucsovic winning in straights, and Djokovic won very comfortably against countryman Kecmanovic 6-3, 6-3, even 6-love, 6-4. Look, I mean, he's looking good. He's sounding very confident. So I'm interested to see what he says in the press conference, and hopefully I'm able to speak to him. So fingers crossed that I do. And then hopefully you guys will be able to then listen and watch it on our YouTube, on our Instagram and TikTok. Timona beat Holmgren 6-4, 7-6, 6-3, the young Dane. It would have been great to see him come through. He's come through qualifying, and a 3rd round berth is definitely a great result. But I know, of course, he would have liked to have gone further. But Alex Timona playing some good tennis. He hasn't had the best of results in the last few months. So this is a good run on grass. Let's see how he's able to play in the upcoming rounds. Dimitrov, great to see him back, not playing with, at least by the looks of it anyway, any physical, just any physical ailments really, because he's been struggling big time with a number of retirements and a number of slams, and I was not convinced that he was even going to win his 1st round match. However, he proved me wrong. He proved a lot of people wrong, and he's fit and healthy, and that's what we want to see from someone who is stylish and has, in my opinion, one of the most attractive games on tour. So I think Dimitrov will be a force, although he's got Jannik Sinner next, so that's going to be a tough one. But he did beat Offner in straight sets. Sinner, talking of Jannik beat Pedro Martinez, who we interviewed at Boodles exhibition. Pedro unfortunately had a shoulder injury. He had some chance in the second set to actually go break up against Jannik, but lost that set 6-3, and then also lost the first and third set 6-1. So very convincing from Sinner. I asked him a question about the fact that he has only lost 17 games, I think it was, in his first 3 matches, which is the least of anyone in the Open era at Wimbledon. And he wasn't really too fussed about the stat, but he did give some interesting insight into some other things, including watching Federer or at Wimbledon in terms of, I imagine it would be on the TV. So, yeah, that was interesting. Asked him about that because the person whose record he overtook was Rogers. Then we also had, to round up the day, we had Kaboli beat Menchik, and Kaboli, I was hoping to actually potentially sneak in there after one of the other interviews that I had. I think it was with Yannick, actually, potentially. But the times didn't align. But I was hoping to jump in there, maybe ask him about practicing with Novak yesterday. He practiced with him and obviously got the win today. Just wanted to ask whether he potentially got any advice from Novak and did it help him at all. But yeah, good win over Jakub Mensik in straight sets. I was really impressed by that result because I didn't expect. I actually picked Menchik to win first, and then also I didn't think Kaboli would win straight sets if he were to win. So that's an impressive performance. In terms of matches tomorrow, we can quickly go over those because there's some good matches, some very good matches on tomorrow. Khachanov plays Matrak in a round of 16 match on court 2. That should be an interesting one. I could see that going 5 sets, so the Khachanov, if I'm not mistaken, has played back-to-back 5-setters. So let's see what he's got left in the tank. The Polish player Matrak is a surprise addition to the second week, and I'm all for it. I'm happy. New names, fresh faces. Let's see what they can do. And when I say new names and fresh faces, I'm talking about this stage of the tournament. We also have Fritz and Thompson. Thompson is struggling, I think, with a back injury, so that could be tough for him physically. And even though Fritz has played, back-to-back 5-setters and then a 4-setter, he actually said he's feeling better physically than he has throughout the whole tournament post-match, which is very interesting to hear. And actually, I was very intrigued by what he was talking about post-match yesterday when I asked him about it, because essentially he was saying that he had bad tendonitis in his knees and is now gone, interestingly, after playing. So, guys, if you want to get rid of your tendonitis, just play back-to-back 5-set matches. Very grueling 5-set matches. And, yeah, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. It'll be healed. Only joking. Nikias Jarry plays Cam Norrie on court 1 as well, including Fritz and Thompson. They're playing on court 1, and Jarry and Norrie also on court 1. Interestingly, I thought they might put them on centre, but I think they've kept Norrie on court 1 because he has specifically said that he loves playing on court 1. He said it in the post-match interview yesterday, or press conference, even. He was talking about it a lot of questions around it. He's only lost on court 1 once, and he did talk about Nico Jarry being a very tough opponent. So they've put Sonay Cartel on centre court instead, and I don't know whether they would have already put her on there anyways. But if it was a decision made, because it's probably a win-win. Cartel probably wants to play on centre. Cam wants to play on court 1. So the stars aligned. But either way, I think Cam's going to be happy about that because he definitely wanted court 1. He feels he plays better on it. So I'm intrigued to see how he performs. Nikias Jarry has been playing some great tennis, of course. And then we've got Carlos and Andrei Rublev on the centre court tomorrow for the men's. And look, Andre, I talked to him yesterday about how he was feeling, and he essentially said, I have no expectations, but actually, now after the way I've been playing, I'm now feeling a lot better about my game, and I'm a lot more confident about how I'm playing. And I was laughing actually about my team, or laughing with my team after or before Wimbledon, saying, there's no way I'm going to do anything at this tournament because I was so out of form in terms of how I was playing. And then actually he's managed to find some really good striking form. And that's been a big plus about how he's been hitting the ball. He's just been feeling the ball really nicely. And look, I think it's a tough ask against Carlos, I'm going to be honest, especially on grass. And I just feel like Carlos, even though Rublev has played at Wimbledon more times, more experience on the grass, he just seems more experienced, seems more suited to it. And despite having some tough matches, I think it's going to be a tough one for Rublev to even get a set. What I will say, though, is that if you want to tune into some big booming ground strokes, then check out this match, because there'll be some exciting rallies for as long as it lasts, even if it's only straight sets. But you know what? Rublev is in great spirits. He's feeling happy. So I'm interested to see what he's able to bring to the table tomorrow. He'll give it his all, of course, as always. But let's see. Maybe he can cause the upset. That would be a big one if he does. On the women's side, there are some interesting matchups. And actually, I would argue that Monday's actually a bit more interesting. Sorry to the rest of the players who are playing tomorrow. But there are some interesting matchups, but just not as interesting for me. So on court 2, we've got Solana Sierra, who's a great story coming through. Well, I was going to say coming through qualifying, but she's a lucky loser, which is even more impressive. She is playing Laura Siegemund, who's caused some upsets. Very tricky lefty from Germany. Siegemund will fancy it because of her experience, and she's an awkward player, so she's almost like a Manarino, you could argue, maybe-esque on the men's side. But yeah, that's one to watch if you want to be entertained. And then we've got Cartel and Pavlyuchenkova, as I mentioned, they're on centre court. Cartel's made a good little run here. And if she were to be Pavlyuchenkova make the quarters, that would be a huge moment in her career. So the crowd will be behind her, just as they were with Emma against Aryna Sabalenka yesterday. The crowd are really getting behind Rybakina. They're going to do the same with Cartel. And I'm interested to see if she's able to really feed into that. And, you know, Pavlyuchenkova, she's a very solid player. She's made a Grand Slam final before at the French. She's no slouch, but she's not a Sabalenka either. So if Cartel can raise her level and limit the errors, I think she's got a really good chance against Pavlyuchenkova. Sabalenka plays Mertens. Interesting because, if I'm not mistaken, they used to play a lot of doubles together before Sabalenka stopped playing doubles, and they won quite a few titles together as well. And Mertens upset Svitolina in the previous round. Look, I mean, Sabalenka historically, from what I know, doesn't find it too hard playing at least Mertens. Let me just double check the head-to-head, but from what I know, she's pretty dominant in the head-to-head, and I don't see her being too troubled. And yeah, they've actually played, 12 times, which is ridiculous. I don't know how they played so many times. On grass, I don't know if they've ever, let's check if they've ever played on grass, because yes, they did. Eastbourne 2018, that's a while ago though. Sabalenka beat Mertens in 3 sets. Mertens has the game to cause some issues on grass. She's got good variety, and she comes forward well, great volleyer as well, of course. But I just find it hard to see her winning. I just think Aryna's got that extra bit of quality that's going to make it very difficult. And then you've got Noskova and Anisimova. Now, this is a really, really good... In my opinion, this is the best women's match of the day. So if you're on court 1, you're very lucky. If you are queuing up, ask for court 1. You get 2 men's matches. So, you know, obviously the women's quality is arguably just as good, if not better in a lot of cases. But you get more tennis. If you're wanting to just see more tennis, most likely you're going to see more tennis on court 1 tomorrow, because there's 2 women's and 1 men's on centre, and 2 men's and 1 women's on court 1. But Noskova's been playing well. Talked to her yesterday. She is, I think, feeling pretty confident on the grass. She said that she's playing on it like it's a hard court, which of course is a really big plus. And Anisimova is, I mean, a lot of the media staff here are saying that they think she might win. She's got a big game for grass. She's obviously had some success here in the past, and she can cause the upset when it comes to big players. So if she can get through this matchup, it'll be interesting to see what she can do going forward in a quarter-final berth onwards. But yeah, a tough match against Noskova, who's very talented as well. So that, for me, is my pick of the matches. It's a tough one to call. I'm going to just slightly lean towards Anisimova. Slightly. Guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Appreciate it as always. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and do comment if you haven't already. Comment your favorite parts of the day, even any questions you have for tomorrow's upcoming matches, as well as always. If you're listening on a podcast platform, you can do the same. Also, drop us a follow, drop us a review. Really do appreciate it. And we will be with you tomorrow. It won't be myself actually tomorrow. It will be Ash S. And Anthony will be back for his last day of Wimbledon tomorrow before he flies back to the US. So yeah, look, you guys have that to look forward to on the pod. And yeah, enjoy that, guys. I'll be back with Liam from Monday, and we will both be back on Monday to the end of the tournament, to the conclusion. So it'll be the two amigos for next week. But for tomorrow, you've got a special pod with Ashes and Anthony. Guys, speak soon. Have a great evening, and we'll chat on the next podcast.